welcoming everybody with the beautiful horizon of red and fire. We keep freaking out. Trump gave us his designated tariffs for the rest of the world, and every single analyst was wrong, ladies and gentlemen. What we thought was going to happen did not happen. What the market thought was going to happen did not happen. We rallied into the news and it was a sell the news event. And the market right now has found a bottom, but we have to see whether we hold for the rest of the day and whether other countries retaliate. But first things first, I want to welcome everybody Timothy, Akeem, and Dimitri and myself. We're all popular investors, so make sure you check out our portfolios and see what we're doing to mitigate some of these risks. And if you believe what we're saying, potentially copy us on eToro as well. But markets are crazy, guys. Markets are crazy. I don't like this. I mean, like Trump's supposed to be pro-business. What happened to pro-business, free trade America? It's Trump the new Chinese leader. What's going on here?
Hmm.
Because we were watching the event yesterday, and I want to know, right? Okay, let's give everybody a little bit of context. What happened yesterday, and why are markets freaking out today? Who wants to take this one?
All right, so let me go with this one. Okay, technically he is pro-business, just not for the stock market business today. Okay, he's pro-business in the long term, but in the short term, yesterday, I'm sure you guys watched the press conference as well. It was a bold move and a risky move, I would say. What he did, the whole presentation was weird. I expected a bit more than just holding like a chart and going all over the place. The explanation why the percentages 60, why China is charging 67% and why they're charging them 34 in return, all that is not yet clear to me how the numbers are calculated.
they came up.
And
They came up with a random equation that apparently tells them this.
yeah, I share that, but it still doesn't make any sense.
At
I
all.
mean, I can come with the formula as well. I just add things and whatever. It doesn't make any sense. Um, but for the people that say that there is not a long-term plan in place, I disagree. I think the plan is take some pain in the short term, but in the long term, they want to reestablish the industrial base that America once had, maybe 2, 3 decades ago, because they have the software, they have the technology, they have the capital, but they do not have the industrial base, and that's in China. And the COVID event was a wake-up call, get the supply chains closer to home, and someone has to do the unpopular policy. And there's no one better to do an unpopular policy than Trump. So here we are. How the markets are affected, we're gonna get into that like later, I guess.
Like for me, it just feels that there was like one of the possibilities was a tiered system, right? And I told you guys just before the show, and it was like it seems to be a three-tiered system that we got, right? Countries that don't matter, 10%. Everybody all across the board. If you're insignificant, you'll just get a 10%. If you're somewhat an ally to the states, or we are in talking terms, I guess in this case, it's 10 to 25. And then if you are and like anything against America or just like smell problems for America, higher than 25, right? We saw countries like Vietnam, countries like China get like massive tariff increases, right? So it's
India.
like
Mhm.
there seems to be like I agree with Dimitris that he seems to want America to be the industrial power here, but is he gonna get that is the question, because it's like let's say you get like let's say the economic which I think could happen if this prevails or stays for too long, would create the economic uncertainty, and inflation will go up. I think potentially production might be down, like jobs might be lost. You might actually create a recession. And if he loses the midterms and then he's not able to actually impose any legislation, and then after that he loses a president in 4 years, companies last longer than 4 years, right? So why would I go invest at $70 per worker, for example, in America when I can actually just wait the 4 years? Sure, I might take a hit in my earnings, but then I don't have a $40 billion factory that becomes unproductive the moment the tariffs go away, right? Because the problem is, what if he doesn't like if he doesn't take these tariffs away? Like taking the tariffs away is going to be really difficult, right? Now because he's selling, oh, America, we're like the foreigners are gonna pay, the Americans are gonna pay. You know what I mean? Like this is like the wall all over again. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens and what the plan is. I mean, there seems to be a little bit of hope, but I'm not gonna lie, I've been living with a lot of hopium lately, you know, and I don't like that. I like it, you know, it's gotten to the point where I have to sort of face the music and then make a decision based on this, whether he's gonna actually, because what does he want with this? You know, it's like he hasn't made it clear to anybody, you know. So what do you guys think? I don't know. Those are my 2 cents on, so far. But
Uh, I'll take from here. So, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the policy. Because look, I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to try to bring the industrial base back to the U.S. The factories that you have in China, usually they require cheap labor, so they require really to have a very large young population that is ready to work in not very well paid jobs. That's why the income per capita in China is the way it is. And in my opinion, bringing the industry back to the US is not really competitive. The US should be focusing on being the leader in terms of AI, blockchain, technology, that require more skilled labor. And we started the year actually with this theme that the US would be the leader of crypto and the leader of AI, with massive investments in those sectors announced by Apple and by Amazon and by a lot of different companies. So I'm not sure to what extent it really makes sense to try to tariff China 34%, India 26%. In my opinion, the US will never be as competitive as those countries that have an abundance of cheap labor. So I'm not going to go too much into the policies. I think we should try to stay focused. As investors, we have to accept the news, right? We receive those news, we have to accept, not debate or discuss. I mean, we can do it, but we have to accept. That's the first thing to do. And I think the markets never, although Trump was repeating for months now that he would put tariffs, that he's going to put reciprocal tariffs, I think the markets never took him that seriously. And even though the markets prepared for the worst, it turned out to be even worse what happened yesterday, because you were not expecting this level of percentage of tariffs on so many different countries. I mean, even Heard and McDonald Islands, that's some islands in Antarctica, there is no one living there, is being tariffed 10%. So there might be something wrong with the formula there. But in any case, the situation is as it is. And in my opinion, and Dimitri actually mentioned it at the last live, the art of the deal of Trump is to come with, just to pull out the bazooka and then to pull the trigger on everyone and then be like, okay, now let's discuss. Yeah. And I think I'm actually, this might sound crazy one day after the announcement, but I'm actually kind of optimistic, because I think the worst was yesterday. I'm reading a lot of comments on eToro, people saying the worst is still ahead, Trump is still president, we're going to suffer the next weeks, months, quarters, years, decades. But I tend to disagree. I mean, there will be volatility for sure in the next days, weeks, and months, ups and downs. Maybe sudden crashes, depending on more fear and uncertainty. But in my opinion, what we have now ahead is rather good news than bad news. So now you're going to have negotiations, you're going to have deals. The EU wants already to discuss with the US. So those tariffs in Vietnam, they can stay, I don't know how high it was there. And in Cambodia, they can stay at 70, 80, 90%. But if tariffs in the EU and the tariffs with China, they start going down, uh, there starts being some negotiations, maybe some exceptions of products. Then in the end, I think it will be more fear than any real impact on US corporations. So this is how I see it. But of course, anything is possible, and that's why there's a lot of volatility still in the next coming days and weeks. But uh, I see here an angle that we can recover, but it will not be a sharp V recovery. In my opinion, it will be some kind of stairs kind of recovery. I'm not saying put all your money today, buy everything today. It could continue falling tomorrow. Maybe China might retaliate, and then the US will retaliate, and we'll have again the trade war we had, but we had it already on Trump 01, on Trump 1.0, sorry, between the US and China, right? So we might have some escalation, but then it will be solved just like during the first mandate of Trump, with some kind of uh, agreement and deal that satisfies everyone, the US and China. So I'm not saying the recovery will happen in the next days, but in my opinion, it will take a few months, and we will recover, and I'm sure we'll hit new highs. I think before the end of the year, I think we will hit new highs, in my opinion.
Timothy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see the
Oh,
chart
he's
and
bringing in
show
the
it.
charts. He's bringing in. He's
Yeah,
bringing the share screen. Let's go. It just
yeah.
got interesting.
I just think like if you look at what the tariffs are charged on the US, you have China 67%, and then USA is charging 34%. Looks like half. The Europe is charging around 40%. So USA is charging 20%, also around half. Then Vietnam is charging around 90%, based on their calculation, of course, and USA is charging 46%.
Crazy.
So to me, it seems like, yeah, USA is charging what the other countries are charging, only half of them. And like Akim is saying, he's pulling out the bazooka. It's not something definitive, uh, definitively. And now it's gonna be negotiations. We haven't heard about China, but we know Canada, Mexico, they're already trying to find the in between. So also I agree with Akim on this, but I also think that the second phase of the uncertainty is starting now, which means we're gonna see Europe maybe pull up some other tariffs, which can cause a next layer of uncertainty. So I'm not sure if markets are ready to rebound sharply in the short term, like you said, Akim. I think the second phase is gonna take a few weeks again to bring the countries on the same level. That's how I see things.
Yeah, I agree with Timothy. I think in the short term, so as investors, but also as for the traders, I think we need to now watch very closely how all those countries that are affected will answer. And if we see, so from the EU, we already see there is, some willingness to discuss, not to escalate, but to discuss. What I want to see is China. I'm really, really, I mean, I'm really monitoring. I want to see how China will react. If China has the same reaction as the EU, like, okay, let's not escalate this, let's discuss, then this would perhaps confirm a bullish pattern where countries are willing to sit together and discuss without escalating this further, which would mean that the worst is here today or last night, right? So in the short term, this is what we have to really watch. And once we get those signals of, willingness of negotiating, I think then it's a good time to buy. I don't think there is more room to fall further for the stock market if we see some willingness here from countries to negotiate. But if China says we're gonna double our tariffs, then we go for another round.
So last night when we were watching this with Nestor and I saw the numbers, it was the numbers were presented very. It was a smart move, okay, to present the numbers that they're charging us 67%, but we only going to charge them 34%. So in theory, they're not going to escalate further. Why? You're going to charge me 80%, then I'm going to go up to 50%. So, and the press conference was watched by the whole country. Maybe not the whole country, but among investors and people like us. So basically, there's no move to be made by China and Europe as far as escalating, but rather come to the table. Let's both lower our tariffs, and we take it from there. The other thing that I'm confused, and I mentioned in the beginning, how they calculated tariffs plus currency manipulation plus trade barriers. How they came up with that number, and that's what makes the argument a bit flawed, because the countries are going to say, you know what? I mean, we know for a fact, because we are in Europe, the euro is not manipulated at all. Okay, it's not. Let's just be honest. The Chinese won, yes, because it's fixed and they devalue it, and they have done it in 2018. They devalue the currency in 2018. So this might be happening again. But the Europeans don't do that with their currency. So I'm fully invested in the US, and I'm trying to see their perspective. But I'm also in Europe, and I know that the Europeans don't manipulate their currencies. So,
but they did get a smaller rate, so maybe that didn't factor into their equation, it seems, right? So
I mean, it's more complicated with the Europeans because you have troops in Germany, and you are like, I mean, the US is very involved in Europe, so that you can't just slap Europe with 50% tariffs. It's going to be like, it's going to get crazy. Yeah. But my feeling is, basically, Trump wanted to tariff China, and the rest of them just got some. And
what country was on the top of the table, actually?
Was it China?
China.
Was it China, right?
China.
Yeah.
China,
so this
China.
This confirms also what Dimitri just said. So how are you guys planning to actually orient your portfolio now? With this story of tariffs, are you gonna buy the dip? Are you gonna change something fundamentally in your portfolios?
Listen, when you guys told me that I can join this episode in the morning, and I was thinking, like, playing over my head, I was like, when one episode with Hakim in the Let's Talk, I said, if Trump gets elected, Europe and Asia becomes uninvestable. Okay, I said that, and I did not have this in mind. Okay, at all. Like this.
There was a lot of backlash. There was a lot of backlash when you said that.
Yes, yes. But now you have a choice to make where to invest your money. Where do you think it's safer? Is it safer in the eye of the storm, which is the US? Or is it safer outside of the storm, and the storm is heading towards you?
Well, but it's interesting, right? Because yeah, the storm is in the States, but it has to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So it's like, using your analogy in this case. And when you look at this, it's like, what is he creating, right? He's creating, I cannot depend in America. I cannot, as an international company, whether I'm in Europe, Canada, Mexico, I cannot depend on the Americans to buy my product. Mm-hmm. I need to start making everybody else rich, right? Because let's be real, right? Like, the deficit in America is not something that harms America. They are the most consumer nation in the world. They have the biggest, they have massive wages. They have, so what does he want? Does he want to have Americans earn as much as the Chinese? As much as Vietnam and Cambodia? As much as Venezuelans? You know, look at Venezuela, for example. Venezuela, a couple of years ago, $15 minimum wage, not an hour, a month. Do you want that? Does America want a little bit of that? So then the question happens in this case is like, okay, Canada's starting to look abroad at its Commonwealth partners. Let's start making some deals. Free trade between us. Europe is starting to look. Maybe China starts looking at Europe as well. Maybe they ease some of those trade barriers. So he's just alienating America. Yeah, American companies, but the beautiful thing about American companies is that they are worldwide. So that is a benefit. You know, Apple is everywhere in the world. Nvidia chips get sold everywhere in the world. But the question is like, do you want to stay in America? Do you want to keep the dollar? Because that's another point that comes to this.
Yes.
Right? Okay, why am I going to hold dollars for? You want to devalue the currency. You print whenever you have an issue. You devalue the value of the bonds, the currency, and sure, you've been able to borrow from the rest of the world for so long. But am I going to continue that to happen? I'm just not going to let you borrow the money. I'll figure out other ways to invest and make productive capital, import. Now everywhere else became more competitive. If I was exporting to the States, now I just say, okay, I'll export to Mexico. I'll export to Canada and let them figure out how they manufacture. And they become more competitive too, because you're not only making American companies more competitive, like able to compete within the sector, other companies that couldn't compete before now become available in this market. So the question is like, okay, who's going to be the winner out of this? You know, who's going to take advantage? Bitcoin, for example, the Bitcoin move, I was so surprised after the announcement how Bitcoin reacted.
Yeah.
Holding at 85K when everything else was tanking. Why? You know, an alternative currency from the Americans? Is this just expediting what the
So
the
I may
pigs
have an
wanted?
answer. I may have an answer. You
Tell me.
probably looked at the price Bitcoin to US dollar. The US dollar fell sharply, right? So the dollar became much cheaper. So that helped to hold the Bitcoin at that price level for a couple hours. But then it tanked also once the dollar also bottomed, right?
But tank, I mean, like Bitcoin is sitting at 82K. The volatile asset that would go from 20 to 60 to 40 to, you know, it's like there's been such resilience in Bitcoin, even though we've seen that volatility. I don't know. I like
I
it.
will not.
I like it.
I will not argue on Bitcoin, but I think Bitcoin hasn't bottomed yet. Very often, you know, there's this optimism. We say, Bitcoin store value is resilient, and then a few days later, it just finally crashes. I mean, there's a lot of traders involved in there, so I think it is not safe. If you're saying Bitcoin is safe, it's not a safe investment now.
No, I don't think it's safe,
Okay.
but I think that the current macro forces at play here are creating a scenario where the question is, do you want to keep dollars in this case when you have, like, okay, I'm not going to send to America, so why am I going to buy dollars? You know, it's
Okay,
like,
But
if it's
Nestor,
not-
you're just adding questions here. My
If he-
question
if he's-
is like, what
Okay,
are you
okay.
buying now?
Let me
What
ask
am
you
I
a question.
well,
Let me ask you a question. If it's not dollars, then what?
well, that's the beauty. Bitcoin, in this case, like, in all honesty, it becomes more of a mess to
So
move.
you're
Can go-
buying Bitcoin. That's what you're
I
saying.
want to buy
Nestor.
Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm looking to set up a position for sure.
Okay, give me another
For
fiat
sure.
currency. Give me another fiat currency that is better than the dollar right now.
Better than the dollar right
The
now?
Swiss
No.
franc. The Swiss franc. The Swiss franc.
No.
No, the Swiss franc. I'm sorry. It continues appreciating in value against all other currencies.
Yeah, but the pound that was also
I mean-
like, the pound has increased. Any commodity currency has increased. You know, it's like because the dollar is like the thing is just like, what does he want? Like the reason is like, what is he doing? And this goes back to my theory that I spoke in the last couple of episodes. Trump wants to create a recession in the States so he can refinance the debt. He wants the American dollar cheap so he can sell his whatever goods, because he still thinks he wants industrialization, when the reality is he wants the new era of industrialization, which is create the robots so your population can focus on other things that is not hard labor, that is not the things that you don't want to work on, and continue to innovate. He came yesterday with a piece of paper and a pencil pointing at the tariffs he was going to impose. What is the technology in America? America has lost its technological advantage here. You know,
So
if he goes and he's like,
so he said there was too much wind to put the big screen there,
Yeah.
right?
oh, but they cannot.
But
Oh,
if
they
you-
cannot. The wind is stronger than America. The
So have
wind
you-
is stronger than America. AI will never be able to conquer because America's wind is too strong. The best wind that we have. It's outrageous. So what are we going towards, right? Like he wants to go back to what the old world of America was. Really, like okay, let's make America great again. Okay, let's work, right? Like maybe like let's make America great again, and this might be controversial. Let's make slaves again. Who knows? In this case, right?
Oh, okay, let's not get crazy with the slave.
The world. America has enslaved
let
the
me-
world with cheap labor, and he doesn't like that.
let me
Controversial.
add one thing. Maybe I add one thing before I let Timothy or Dimitri. What I'm noticing, so there's one big fear. One big fear is that the tariffs will bring up inflation, right? So it will bring up inflation, and the Fed will have to again tighten policy, raise interest rates, and if that happens, the stock market would continue falling, and the yield on U.S. Treasuries would go up. But interestingly, the markets are rallying behind the U.S. Treasuries. So they're massively buying U.S. Treasuries. I'm looking at the 10-year yield. We started Monday at 4.35%, more than 4.3%, and we are now at 4%. So this is a massive drop in interest rate on U.S. Treasuries. So this makes me think that the markets now are heavily expecting that the tariffs will not bring inflation up, but will cause indeed a slower economic growth. This is what who mentioned that? Was it you, Timothy, or Nestor? Will allow Trump to refinance his debt. And at the same time, this will allow Powell actually to cut interest rates and to stimulate massively the economy. And if that happens, we would be actually in a very similar scenario to the COVID crash in 2020. COVID happened, the economy, fell. Trade, international trade also dropped. And what happened after was a strong recovery with central banks everywhere in the world really stimulating, injecting a lot of cash, a lot of money there. This is why also the dollar got already cheaper now. That's why the interest rate, so the US yield went down. So I am actually very bullish for the second half of this year. I think we're going to really have a very strong recovery. This is how I see it play out now. So I would not buy only Bitcoin. I would
No,
continue
my portfolio
buying.
is laid out. You know what I mean? My portfolio is laid out. So
So
it's
you're
like,
not changing
but I don't have
anything.
Bitcoin. Funny enough, I actually don't hold Bitcoin. I have Mara. I have the crypto mine.
Yeah, but why are you advocating Bitcoin then if you're not holding any?
Well, I'm gonna buy it. You ask me what's gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it.
All
You know,
right.
I think it's becoming more and more, like more and more the right choice. Like
It's
the
odd-
US dollar
it's-
right now.
It's odd to buy Bitcoin if it's the one asset that didn't fall as much as you can buy Amazon on discount now, or
Of course.
Apple.
Well, the question is, the question is not what you can buy, Akim, but what are you buying? Is my question. How are you taking advantage of this shift? Because there are deals, 100% there are deals. Question is which ones,
Yeah. So in my case, today I bought a bit of altcoin. Okay, it's very risky. I did buy a bit more of altcoins.
You give me shit. This guy.
I might buy more Bitcoin.
Not the American dollar, Pepe.
But I'm going to buy U.S. tech stocks massively because I think they're on the side of Trump. They've supported Trump. Trump mentioned them each. I think almost every single Mac 7 company he mentioned yesterday, and he's. I think I can see here that it could be a very nice trade to buy quality assets with a lot of cash. They have a huge amount of cash, so they can invest in the US, they can invest in other countries, they can adjust a little bit their supply chains as well. They have this flexibility, and they are currently trading at a really interesting discount in relation to historical valuations, because they fell just like the rest of the market. But they have a huge amount of cash, and they are able to recover. They will continue growing anyway. So I would say watch that space, big tech. So I like big tech. I also like crypto, where we are at the point of the cycle, but you need to feel comfortable with that.
No, I think tech is looking good because tech has been dropping the moment Trump came into power. There was a lot of de-risking from tech because it was the winner that we had seen for a long time. And I think there are amazing deals in tech right now. That is very true. Interestingly enough, which this is the thing that shocked me as well from the announcement, was I am going to tariff Taiwan, but TSMC and NVIDIA, they are doing great and they're investing. But the problem is that the big thing here is look, they're making the factories you want. They're building in America. It's going to take time, but they're actually like TSM has the factory is almost done. They're back into schedule, and
they will be exempt
he still
of tariffs.
Them. He still doesn't exempt. He's like, bro, like I'm doing what you want. I'm coming to America. You'll give me some time.
They will be exempt of tariffs. TSMC and NVIDIA so NVIDIA is an American company, but TSMC will be exempt of tariffs, in my opinion, because Trump will show the example with TSMC, send a message to all the other ex-US companies that if they invest in the US, in my opinion, a symbolic $1 billion is enough for that international company to be exempted from tariffs. So you're going to see Volkswagen and some other German, European manufacturers that will, in my opinion, invest that symbolic $1 billion in the US just to be exempted from tariffs. In my opinion, this is what we're going to see in the next weeks and months. But I will let the floor to Timothy and Dimitri. I talked too much already. It's a very exciting topic.
Yeah.
Can I just share some notes again? Because if you look at what industries are affected, it says materials, industrials, real estate, consumers, and a bit of tech like Apple. So you have to look at your portfolio and ask yourself the question, what of your stocks is really affected? Like Akim said, some of these tech stocks are down 30-40%, but are they really affected by these tariffs? So in my opinion, that's a steal, that's a buy. Absolutely. If, for example, you're investing in Nike, some of those manufacturing products are coming from China. So you have to ask yourself the question, am I gonna hold these or not? I personally sold my Nike shares when it was clear that he was gonna impose tariffs on China. So that's what I sold. But for my tech stocks, for the stocks that are not affected by these tariffs, I don't see any reason to hold them and even buy more when I see a bottoming pattern. So that's how I look at the stocks in my portfolio right now. How about you, Dimitris?
I agree with you guys. Technology stocks is the obvious play right here, because most of them that will not be affected by tariffs, other than Apple, of course. And since our last episode, I bought Google, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon. I mean, they were the best things available at the time when I was looking, and still are. And they, like Akim said, they sit on a huge pile of cash. I mean, Amazon wants to buy TikTok. Okay, I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's only like 5 companies in the world that they have like that kind of a checkbook to write that check, and it's these companies, and they can weather the storm, but it gets volatile in days like today. And Apple is down, what, it's like 8%. it's not pleasant to hold in your portfolio like as a large position and taking a hit, but they have the upside. They always have the upside, and so for me at this moment, the best move is US tech, and I'm not touching anything outside of Europe for the moment.
I mean, you
Well-
cannot tariff Google search, right? So
Yeah.
Alphabet's not going to suffer. You cannot
Well,
tariff
give it to Trump. Give it to
Microsoft
Trump.
Azure. So
Give it
Microsoft
to
is not
Trump
gonna
to
suffer.
figure out a way, you know? Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, if for each gigabyte of data. Yeah.
No, but it's true that the risk is higher in Nike and Puma and Adidas and those companies that manufacture in China, Southeast Asia. Like
I mean,
I think
Nike was having issues prior to the tariffs, right?
yes, already. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
funny enough, while we were talking, I bought TQQQ because I'm expecting a bounce soon.
that's
And
the
I bought
leveraged. That's the
Bitcoin.
leveraged Nasdaq.
That's the
for our
leverage.
listeners.
Which my
3x.
shorts tell you, don't do it. You know. But like I have a feeling, you know, it's like I have a feeling that tech is coming out of this unscathed, you know.
But this,
Like, I
you
don't-
know,
like, I
because
think-
you're buying leverage Nasdaq. This means you're expecting the recovery to start tomorrow
No,
and to be
the thing
V-shaped.
is like I'm not expecting a recovery, but the thing is just like I do think that right now we have like this is peak. Like right now, based on what everything that has happened, I think we're potentially sitting at peak fear right now. You know, it's in
But
the
I
sense
think,
of
Nestor, you mean like we can have a big bounce and you're trading that bounce?
not a big bounce. Not a big bounce, you know, but a 1% bounce in the Nasdaq coming here, just like filling up the gap from yesterday, because there's hopes that potentially Trump speaking tonight. He's going to be speaking tonight. Okay, like what's the deal? Maybe he gives a little bit of clarity, maybe hints at the possibility of. I think there's more room to up for like. I think there's more probability of an upside than downside from here. Short term, right? I'm still, because this is where I want to ask you guys as well. Like based on your bear bull scale, right? Like I was sitting at a 5 last time I asked this. I'm still sitting at a 5. Like I'm still very undecided in trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen. But where are you guys right now? Like 1 to 10, you know, like 10 being super bullish, 0 being super bear. For the end of the year, right?
So
Oh, the end of the year. End of the year,
year.
I'm extremely bullish for the end of the year. But in the next few days, few weeks, not so much, because we have to get through this volatility and get the response from the other countries and see what they are. But for the rest of the year, I'm very bullish.
in my case, I'm also very bullish. Also, I don't know in the next days, next weeks, what's going to happen. But this is why we are not traders, we're investors, because we never know what's going to happen in the next days. I would give it an 8, though, not a 10. Just because the only reason is because you say by the end of the year, and I am not sure about the timeline here. I don't know how long the trade war, could carry on, and how many bazooka fires can be shot. Maybe until maybe until beginning next year, we're going to have a lot of volatility. So this is the only reason it's not a 10. I make it an 8 because just timing wise, I don't know when we'll have this recovery, but we'll have a very strong recovery.
So if the CPI comes below expectations, this coming one,
And we have unemployment tomorrow,
Insane.
right?
yes. So we get a strong employment and we get a below estimate CPI, and we get a following CPI.
I think the one we're going to have next week, the CPI from next week, I think is not so important because the tariffs, they are effective starting yesterday. So I think markets will anyway wait for the CPI that comes out in May for April, just to assess the impact of tariffs on CPI. So if there was no impact on CPI from the tariffs effective since yesterday, I think then we can start, the party again.
Some companies probably front runner the tariffs just to get ahead buy cheaper before the tariffs get hit. But I think that despite the drama, I think a couple of good CPIs and the Americans don't give a shit how much China is getting tariffed. Okay? Like tariff them 100%. As long as we don't get inflation here, everything is good. So it comes down again to inflation.
But is it possible to avoid inflation if all Chinese goods are, higher by 34%? Or I don't know what the percentage was. I think it was 34%. Is it possible to avoid that inflation?
In
There is
2018,
this.
in 2018, it wasn't inflation.
Mhm.
In 2018, there was no inflation, and that's what people are betting, that we're going to have a repeat of 2018, which the trade war between China and the US did not cause inflation. And I'm not going to tell you that it's not going to cause inflation because I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what people are betting. That
No, I agree. I have the same reading, but it's a risk to bear in mind. So if there's
yeah, obviously.
guys, who else needs to give a rating? Timothy, what's your
Timothy.
rating? Nestor is a 5, right? Nestor,
I'm
you
a
said you're
5. I have no idea.
You're a
I have
5,
no idea.
but you're buying leverage Nasdaq and Bitcoin, and you're
No,
a
but
5.
short term, yes. Short term, like the event has passed. The storm has cleared. Like yesterday, I thought the storm was clear yesterday. I do think that it was a sell the hope, buy the news.
Nestor, I don't want to see what's your 10 then.
No,
I
I'm
want to
10.
see what you're gonna buy.
I buy altcoins when I'm at 10. Timothy.
Yeah, I'm pretty bearish for the next 2 months, let's say. So until the mid of the year, we, in my opinion, gonna see the downtrend continue. So in a previous podcast, I already mentioned that I was expecting the markets to continue down, and now I still do, because like I said before, there's this uncertainty phase 2 that's going high. From the midpoint of this year, I really don't know. Like I'm gonna see whether the policies change, whether the structure of the markets are changing, and I'm just checking charts and not being able to see this long in my crystal ball, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm giving 3 out of 10.
What's your favorite stock or crypto right now? Do you have one?
Well, to be fair, I sold most of my altcoins actually, so I'm not into altcoins anymore. And Bitcoin, I'm just watching if it's gonna take out this last March low. I'm gonna sell my Bitcoin. As I said before, that's a red flag. And for stocks, it's mainly the Mac 6, excluding Tesla.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Yo, I like in my terminal right now, First Solar is sitting at 7% gains today.
Which one?
First Solar.
First Solar.
That's a stock in my portfolio. Yay.
There is some
But
hope. There is some hope.
But it's crazy cheap. So I'm
Yeah,
not
well,
sure
it's been
the
just
reason for
tanking.
rebound, but
Wait. I think First Solar,
actually-
they don't import from China, right? They make
No,
them in the
they-
US.
They're American.
So they have
They're American.
they have business only in the US. They have business only in
There
the
you
US.
go.
And they were rising like crazy during Biden's mandate.
Yes.
Because Biden promised he would protect US solar energy companies, renewable energy companies against the Chinese. Trump, he never said anything in favor of solar energy. But the tariffs that he announced yesterday against the entire world, that's fantastic for First Solar, because you're not going to have solar energies companies coming selling their products to the US, because you still have those protections from Biden. But on top of that, they're even less competitive now with the tariffs. Their productions are going to be much more expensive, the Chinese solar energy.
You know
It's
what?
gonna be
This development actually is positive. So I wouldn't go like 3x leverage Nasdaq like Nestor, but I will buy something here only because there is some sense in the market. So people actually say, you know what, First Solar makes sense. When good news, bad news, everything goes down. It's when the panic is still there. I think we are beyond the panic. Just people are scrambling to find safety, scrambling to find.
The question is who the winners and losers are. Yeah, I agree with Dimitri.
So actually, for solar is a good example. Perhaps the U.S. manufacturers, so the ones who already manufacture in the U.S., who are part of the existing U.S. industrial base, perhaps that it makes sense to invest in them. Dimitri, you had Deere. I don't know if you still have it.
No, I don't have it.
That could be another stock, for example, that's interesting to have. Caterpillar, maybe Boeing. Boeing has, its share of issues since years. But all those manufacturers that already manufacture in the US, maybe that could be an interesting play. Look, Coca-Cola is up, PepsiCo is up. They manufacture in the US and they're consumer staples. They consider as consumer staples. So it's quite interesting actually when you see Next Era Energy. I'm seeing it up there, green. Bottom right. Also business in the US and also utilities, consumer staples are up. So I think it's also interesting to hedge your portfolio with some consumer staples. Dimitri mentioned UNH in the beginning. Verizon is also up. So those can be interesting to hedge your portfolio. They usually pay dividends and they're stable. They grow slowly, but they grow every year. So it can be interesting if you want to hedge your portfolio to go with them, but they're not exciting. They're quite boring plays, but it's part of possible risk management strategy.
Like let me show you here, because this is the thing that drives me mad. It's like when we look at tech, like when we look at tech in the last 2 years, people were willing to pay 30, 40, 50%, 50 forward earnings. And right now, when we start looking at the stock market, it gets really interesting because Philip Morris is sitting at 21 forward PE. Coca-Cola at 23, Costco 48, Walmart 30, and then Nvidia sitting at 18.
They're valued like tech stocks. It's crazy.
That's why TQQQ seems like it's like it's gotten so beat up, and there's got to be winners. There's got to be winners and losers in this.
So we are at the point that investors are not just panicking and say, "Get me out of everything," and they just say, "Get me out of the risky stuff that affecting from China and get me into something that has nothing to do with China." So that's a good sign, actually. The bad sign is when, good or bad, everything goes down all at once, like bonds, you name it, everything goes down. That's the part that you don't want to jump in. But something going up today, it makes like a little bit of sense.
I prefer when everything falls, because usually you would have a strong rebound across the board, right? And here you're going to have a lot of capital shifting between companies, between stocks, between sectors in the next months and quarters. So I think it's really, really important to be diversified now. I would not put all my money in Nvidia now, like Nestor is doing. I think it's more important than ever to have a diversified portfolio.
You know what?
I agree with the diversification, but I do think that like if you what happens to Nvidia stock if he says TSM doesn't have to deal with the tariff? Like, so really, America's not going to buy AI chips. So all of the AI, the $500 billion of AI investment, nah. You know what? We change our minds. America doesn't want AI anymore. Like, what are the chances? I think there's higher probability of him reducing Taiwan chip and like adding additional benefits or reducing those taxes than there is to increase those levels. But look at the VIX. The VIX is sitting at a very pretty level too, eh?
What is it?
It's sitting at 24.7 right now.
Okay, 24 is not bad.
When did we see the same level?
Same levels. We saw it in July.
What happened?
July. I think this was the Japanese carry trade, no?
Yeah, the Japanese.
No, that was August. That was August 5th.
Yeah, but that looks like it was beginning of August, no? The spike there.
July. This is July,
It looks
August. Yeah,
like.
correct. And
I
then
read
Probably.
I read a
before
piece this
that,
morning that says that Alibaba is a better AI play than Nvidia. I would like to hear Nestor's thoughts.
Alibaba, where did they get their chips?
No, I'm
Like,
serious. I read this
but
morning that
the thing is just
Alibaba
like
is
if we
a
go
better
back to
AI
it,
play than Nvidia.
like maybe it could be, but do I think that the compute demand is going to decrease in the near term? No. Do I think that Nvidia is still ahead and has a pulse on the industry like no other company right now? Yes. Like I just don't see, like maybe it could, like if they figure out AI, but right now what we got is it's the start of it. You know what I mean? Like this is the like we got MS DOS. You know what I mean? Like
No, I'm with
in
you.
AI.
I'm investing in Nvidia as well. I'm not arguing with you. I'm with you. But is this like things that you listen? Once something happens, like an event like yesterday, then you're gonna start hearing things like crazy things. Like everyone has an opinion now. No, that's garbage. Alibaba is better than Nvidia. I mean, when the sentiment is that low, okay, it's usually where the bottoms are. So I think Akim said earlier that we are not too far from the bottom, and the road ahead is much clearer than the. So I think we're gonna have. I think a rebound is coming soon enough. I wouldn't bet on a 3x leverage QQQ.
Short term.
Yeah, short term, but I think we're getting there. And
And it's a small position of the portfolio too.
no, I'm sure you do the best with it. I'm not saying that you're not doing the best with it. I'm saying for my investing style, I would get a bit more, safe. When I say safe, like Amazon.
Look,
Yeah.
I think I think you should buy now. So not necessarily today, but if you're thinking to buy more shares or to enter the market, if you haven't entered it yet, I think you should. It's a fantastic timing now. Is better, when everyone is panicking and panic selling the shares at a discount. You better buy at a discount now than when we're in a bubble. And unfortunately, people tend to invest and to put all their money and their savings only when the market has been green already for several months and we're already at the end of the bull run, right? So now we're at the bottom or close to it. If it falls another 10% is fine. It already fell 10%, and you have amazing opportunities across high quality stocks that are down already 20% or more, part of the Mag 6. And I think it's the best moment to buy or to start buying. So don't be scared. The stock market will recover. We don't know how much time it will take, but it will recover. And just invest regularly, starting today if you can. But continue investing. You'll be really happy. Maybe 5 years from now, you will look back and be like, "Wow, I should have bought more
Yeah.
of at that
In the
price."
grand scheme of things, this is a blip.
I think
Hopefully
in
things
6 months you're gonna look back and say, I should have bought more. In 6 months.
I missed it. You have those people that it's like, no, it's gonna keep dipping. It's gonna keep dipping. It's gonna keep dipping.
Do you know how
Maybe it goes to
many?
all-time high.
Do you know how many times I was like walking? I was like, "Fuck! How did I miss the August 5th?" August 5th, I was like, "Okay, you know what? I've seen this before. I'm gonna wait this out." And then by the time I realized it was like 2 days, and then bam, and the whole thing recovered.
Yeah. When Amazon is trading at the same valuation as a utility company, but Amazon has 20% earnings growth, while the utility company is flat, I mean, there you see the opportunity, right?
and the fear of investors buying utilities. I mean, do you guys have utilities? I think Akim, I don't think you have utilities. I don't think Nestor either. And
I have
and
first solar, if you want to count it as utilities, solar energy, but it's not exactly that. Maybe Nestor, you want to count Mara as utilities, right? As a crypto
Yes.
miner.
I mean, according to Jensen's, we'll have the factories of the future will produce intelligence.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go get my leather jacket. Give me a second. No,
I mean, utility companies is just like giving up, basically. Like just buy bonds. Why are you having like utilities? Just buy the bonds and get the yield.
At that point, yeah, So it's interesting. It's very, very. By the way, France President Macron, the response to Wednesday's announcement of U.S. tariffs will be more massive than the previous response.
Okay.
I want to hear what Dimitris has to say because he told me something
seriously.
interesting yesterday.
Did Macron just say that?
Yes.
Yeah. Dimitris, tell me.
Okay.
What is your prediction?
Okay. On the chat yesterday, right, ahead of the announcement, I said to you guys, that, now you know what, I'm not going to say it. It's too much.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it. I don't want to make people like, but, I mean, is that what you expect from leaders now? They have to show toughness.
You got
him.
Trump. You got him. But probably in the background you don't have to. But for forward facing, you lose it. Like he is not looking out for us. He only cares about America. Oh, he's sucking up Donald Trump's teeth. Like we're going. You have to act strong in here.
In my opinion, Macron is making a mistake because the EU already announced they wanted to meet and to discuss together about a plan and how we can negotiate this with Trump. So Macron unilaterally attacking like this Trump, I think is not going to be a productive solution for France here, in my opinion. But this is a political opinion.
I mean, I think France, I think Macron is going strong here. I mean, they're probably going to surrender some concessions, like I give it 3 weeks.
Okay. No, like the thing is we're gonna see concessions. It's like if Trump really wants to get free trade in the table, this would be great for stocks. If he really just wants to pay for America's debt.
Okay, so one more thing. One more thing, what I'm having in my head. So the whole thing Trump is doing now with the tariffs is based on the understanding that the U.S. has the consumer base, okay? And basically the rest of the world doesn't have the consumer base that America has. Some countries have the industrial base, but the industrial base requires to export. And Germany has to export those Mercedes into the US, which is the larger market. So in theory, and I'm just guessing, Trump thinks that has the leverage here because he has the consumer, he can leverage the manufacturing countries to drop their tariffs. So that's what the whole thing is based on. Right or wrong, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work, but the US has a position of strength here. They are the largest economy. They have the reserve currency, which is, this situation is not helping at all, keeping it, okay? And they have the consumer. And as long as the consumer is strong and they don't roll over into a recession, then the US can wait this out. And the next president is not going to be so quick to remove the tariffs, because the tariffs that Trump got put in place during the first term, Biden came in and actually increased them. Like he was the one who started the curbs with NVIDIA chips to China. It wasn't Trump. That was Biden. So it's bipartisan, the movement for, I mean, it's complicated. It's complicated and...
No, it's hard. It's hard to resent like the tariffs after they are set, because then you look weak. Then you look, you were all talk, or Trump doesn't have the luxury of that, So all of a sudden, it's like,
technically, it wasn't Biden. It was his auto pen, right? So we don't know who signed.
All right, guys, anything else you guys want to tell the community? I want to tell everybody, check out our portfolios, check out our trades, make sure to look at our portfolios and get some free information, or copy us if you're looking, if you agree with our point of view, it's that simple. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and the video and the shorts will be available shortly for everybody to enjoy. But I think we're good. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comment below, and I'll make sure every single one of them answers the question. Peace.
Thank you, and stay strong. If you're not investing,
Yeah.
stay strong.
Hodl.
If you're not buying more.
It is the truth. All right. Peace, everybody.
Bye.
All
I
right.
think that was good.
It was good. It was exactly 1 hour, 60 minutes.
Now the question is, will it stop like last time? Because it just kept going last time.
Mine says 0% uploading.
Great.
know
Recording is
why.
uploaded.
It's
That's
still
was-
live.
It was live
It's
or?
still live.
Oh, shoot.
Right? It happened last time.
Stay here until your recording is done. Uploading to your host gets the full file. Okay. But it shows 0% uploading.
That's so weird.
How the market is doing, by the way?
I don't want to check even.
Let
Are
me
we still
check it.
live or not?
I think we're still
Yeah,
live.
we are live. We are live.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Oh, wow.
Let's go another hour.
It's bad, huh? The market, right?
You know what? The S&P is actually working.